And I want to bring this up and read through this. This is from our friends at the People's Party. Now, I know Matt follows this up. It's a third party that they're trying to get to go against the Democrats and Republicans to try to get a coalition that can get some influence and to do something here with leverage. Matt also, I know, is very close to the Green Party. But I thought this was particularly well stated about the NDAA. And again, this is the main reason I wanted to get the show on today. So I got to talk about this a little bit. But the Democrats and Republicans can agree on one thing, one of the largest military budgets in American history. One thing, folks, that we can agree on. Yesterday, President Biden signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law. The NDAA is an outrageous $778 billion 2022 military spending budget that includes a $25 billion increase from Congress to the White House's initial budget. That always amazes. I don't even know how the hell that could be legal, how that happens. But anyway, and of course, think about your home state. We've got a Democratic representative here in the House of Representatives. She voted for it, Cindy Axne. And of course, our two Republican senators, Grassley and Ernst. I mean, they can't wait to rubber stamp this stuff. Congress can approve monstrous military spending budgets with rapid success and bipartisan support, but waited until the last day before their holiday break to shoot down the Build Back Better Act. Yeah, I remember that, which was already staggeringly weak social spending bill. The overwhelming support from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress to hand the Pentagon $778 billion while tabling critical social programs show us that we truly only have one political party in power. It is the corporate party, folks. Now, the Democratic Party continues to use scapegoats like Senator Joe Manchin to mask their broken promises for funding and passing social programs. Don't overlook that. Yeah, Manchin's largely responsible for this, but we were told by the Democrats, who should be in charge of their own caucus, for God's sake, that they were going to get us the social spending, these things that we need desperately here at home and by extension abroad to improve the lives of everyone, folks. They haven't done it. The latest military spending bill just goes to show the issue stalling legislation isn't one senator from West Virginia. Congress can get work done when it benefits the pocketbooks of their corporate donors and the establishment elite. Now, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, is just one example of this. And I want to read this here because I've talked about this long and hard. Matt and I discussed this the last time that he was on. But the corporate-fueled military establishment is thriving despite pulling troops from Afghanistan, which was touted to save American taxpayers millions a day. They were spending $300 million a day for 20 years in Afghanistan. Where's the money, folks? But none of those savings are reflected in public needs such as housing, education, healthcare. Instead, the war hawk Congress, which is what they ought to be called, has turned their sights on China by approving an additional $25 billion in spending for the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. And that dovetails very nicely with that amount that was a bonus for Joe Biden. It was included in the congressional increase. Congress is marching the United States towards a second Cold War while fattening the pocketbooks of bloated military contracts and offering little to no oversight. And then here's their call to start a new populist party. This is from Zainab Day, executive director of the People's Party. So, Matt, would you agree with any or all of that? Is that overstated? Is that hyperbole, or are they spot on?
No, they're spot on. I mean, maybe it's understated. You know, I mean, look, I mean, the amount of money we're spending and the amount of money we're not spending on our own country is criminal. Every year, as that $778 billion budget. Let's just go back to this first. That's only part of the entire military budget of the war spending budget. You know, you're not including spending for veterans, which is over $200 billion a year. You're not including spending for the State Department, where, honest to God, most embassies spend most of their time, or a good amount of their time, trying to sell weapons. I mean, so the State Department really has become in so many ways an arm of the Pentagon, or they're enforcing sanctions, or so, you know, you're not including the intelligence budgets, which are, you know, estimates of $75 to $100 billion a year. You're not including the interest on past military and war spending. which, this is the number that really gets people, I think, to really think about this. If the interest in debt spending for past military and war spending was its own federal department, right? It would be the third biggest department in the federal government by budget, right? I mean, so you have, because we're spending more than $150 billion a year on interest and debt payments for past military spending and wars. So, I mean, if you have the Pentagon budget, the base budget's $775 billion, whatever it is, the veterans budget's more than $200 billion. And then the third biggest thing in the federal government would be the $150 billion a year or more that we spend on interest payments for past military spending.
Yeah, come on,
I mean,
deficit hawks, come on.
right? I mean, so it's just, and then at the same time, while this has occurred, you have seen spending for anything that's not related to defense or military or war by the federal government over the last 20 years either remain flat or decline.